This is Boxing Tickets NI, and we're joined with Dylan Taylor. How are you, Dylan?
I'm doing good, Stephen. Yourself?
Struggling on as usual. Obviously getting ready for the UK return to boxing on Saturday night. So I'm sure, like most people, it's looking forward to something to watch on the TV.
Yeah, can't wait for the boxing myself. It'd be good to finally be able to watch it. Obviously, it's been gone from the UK. They cancelled a load of shows for a couple of fighters, especially the Belfast ones who were supposed to be on, and I'll be losing out on their opportunity. But like I say, Sean McComb will have his chance in 2 weeks again.
Yeah, it definitely is, and as I say, it's one obviously the next few months is obviously looks to be well prepared for UK boxing. Obviously, for you yourself, you're probably hoping that it opens up more in the UK. That obviously, you've yourself and quite a few others that have signed the Boxing Ireland, and obviously have no shows in the pipeline because of the pandemic. So I'm sure you'd be hoping the numbers drop, and obviously boxing can be allowed to return properly.
Yeah, we're just hoping that the numbers drop and then they open up for ticket sales, especially within Northern Ireland and Belfast. And just be good to get up, make the debut in Belfast with all my fans there. And it's just the whole thing's been closed out in because of this pandemic.
And how have you been finding with the pandemic and stuff yourself? Are you just sort of just having to get on with it as normal?
Yeah, well, I'm training as if I'm fighting next week. Like I push myself to the limit after training session, and that's 6 days a week. And I'm either out running or find the gym with Peter and stuff. So just working hard, and we're just waiting to be able to make my debut.
It definitely is. So, sort of, you signed with Boxing Ireland Promotions in November 2020, and you obviously have linked up with. Well, I'd not say you've linked up with Peter Graham because obviously Peter Graham was your amateur coach and stuff there as well. So, how did the signing with Boxing Ireland come about?
Well, after the Ulster Seniors that I won with Clonard, I had a couple of months off, and I was considering going back to back boxing amateur, or I was just considering or maybe just leaving it completely. And Peter was like, are you coming back to the club?" And that's what I told Peter, amateur boxing isn't really for me anymore. I would consider coming back maybe to turn pro. So Peter said leave it with him, as he had his professional coaching license. And then he contacted a few promoters, and Dennis came over to the club and watched the spar between me and O'Neill,
Mhm.
and he seemed to like what he'd seen, so he went ahead with the signing.
Yeah, and obviously, as I say, Owen himself sort of signed with Boxing Ireland sort of in the back as sparring with Paddy Gal. So obviously, you'd be looking to replicate the same model as Owen has, and got the 4-0, building a fan base, and sort of Belfast has sort of been built on him for boxing.
Yeah,
I think even Owen himself certain didn't like the image of being called a ticket seller, and obviously is now out to prove that he's more than a ticket seller. So I'm sure he'll be obviously looking to replicate that model.
yeah. Well, Oney's got a great backing. I think he's sold a lot of tickets for all his fights. Like you say, I think he's just there to prove now that he's not just there to sell some tickets and get his show to go ahead. He's there. He's going to want to compete for titles by the end of this year, I think he said. So
Hmm.
I think it's see where he goes from there.
Definitely would. So, sort of looking back at your own career, what age did you start boxing at, and what got you into boxing?
Well, I started boxing when I was 8 years old, and it was because I was getting bullied in school. And I used to be smaller than everyone, and I was a bit heavier as well. So people just used to pick at me and make fun of me, and I just decided to start boxing, learn how to defend myself. And the reason I chose boxing was my brother was actually boxing at the time too, my older brother. So I went down to the club with him, and it went from there.
And it's always it's something we sometimes hear a lot of in boxing. Sometimes that people get involved in boxing, um, because obviously they're getting picked on at school and things like that. So I guess in some ways you could probably look back at the people that were sort of doing that at a time and go, you've actually helped me onto a good path in life rather than going, you were forced into it in other ways, and I'm sure it's probably kept the bullies off, knowing that you were sort of making a name for yourself in boxing then.
Yeah, well, the main thing boys do is they drag you down, but in this case, it's actually brought me out of myself. It made me more confident because I went to the boxing, started winning titles. The first year, or got straight to an All Ireland final, was beating everyone easily, and stopping most people in my first year boxing. So that sort of made me drive on in the sport.
And obviously, it's told the bullies that you're not there to be bullied, and obviously with the boxing, obviously it's about being inside the ring and not outside the ring. So you put the fear in them with them seeing the newspaper clippings.
Yeah, so you don't even. It's not even about having to use the boxing outside of the ring. It's more they see what's going on and they're like, okay, we'll definitely leave this because it's not something that they want to be involved in then.
No, a bully doesn't like being hitting back. So obviously you've been able to do it in the right way and carry on. So tell us obviously more then about your amateur career. So you started boxing at the age of 8, and you're saying obviously you got an All Ireland in your first year of boxing. So what sort of amateur career did you have, Dylan?
Well, to me, I thought a good amateur career because, like I say, in the first year, All Ireland final, lost it to Guy Shane McIntyre. He went on to win 8 or 9 Irish titles and was in the World Championships.
Mm.
So it wasn't as if I lost to someone who wasn't there. It wasn't just a one-hit wonder. He was one of those special talents. And then every year from then on, any time I lost, the people who beat me won an All Ireland title. So I was losing out to these guys, and they were going on winning Irish title after Irish title, representing Ireland. But I've won everything that there is in the amateur apart from obviously an All Ireland title.
Mm.
And then when I was 18, I moved to Belfast, where I joined Clonard. And within 3 months there, I won my first title as a senior, which was the Antrim Seniors.
Mm-hmm.
I actually won it at light heavyweight. And then just recently passed, I won the Ulster Seniors at 75. So it's been a pretty good amateur career for me.
Yeah, fantastic. So obviously, and what was it then you were was it more the fact that, what was it you were sort of falling out of love with in amateur sport? Was it just the fact that you were seeing so many people turning pro and, it was something you wanted to try your hand in?
Yeah, well, from a young age, I always wanted to turn pro. Like, I knew that my goal was to be a professional boxer. And all with friends like Connor Quinn, he went to Australia, he turned professional, and then you'd the likes of Kevin Hines, me and him were in the same Antrim team a couple of times. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he's a special talent. And he was turning pro, and I have a program there that shows like the guys like Calvin McDonald, he's pro. There's Kevin, there's Big Carl Douglas from Immaculata professional, and then Carly McNaught, obviously, and that's all in the one Antrim team.
Mm-hmm.
So most of them were pro, and then you've got Carly, who's also special as well.
Yeah, but definitely is. So, playing obviously with Boxing Ireland promotions, they've obviously been, probably other than MTK Global in Belfast, they've always been doing great things. I think what did Celtic 8, 9, and 10 all within a 9-month period. So obviously, if the pandemic wasn't, if the pandemic obviously hadn't happened, you probably could have made your debut by now. Or probably being close to it. They obviously seem to be doing great things in the sport. What sort of conversations have you had with Dennis, Leonard, and Stephen so far as to where they want to take you in your boxing career?
Well, we've just been looking at the shows that they're putting on at the minute, and who they're dealing with. So at the minute, they're looking at the McHenna. He's interested in teaming up with them. Mm-hmm. So that's good opportunities in the future for some of the Boxing Ireland boxers. And then they've got the show that they're trying to do in the 3 Arena, which is going to be the mix between the K1, the Muay Thai, and the professional boxing. So hopefully I can get on to one of those shows and just show what I can do.
It definitely is. And sort of what weight are you going to be campaigning at? Obviously you were saying there you boxed at light heavyweight and stuff in the amateurs. What sort of weight are you looking at campaigning at? I'm guessing obviously you're not going to campaign at the weight straight away, but it's coming down to it. But what sort of weight would you be looking to campaign at?
Well, currently I'm actually sitting on the super middleweight limit. So my goal is to be middleweight, and I think I could actually be on that for my pro debut if I get a date and I'll know when to drop the weight for it. But I am walking around as a super middleweight at the minute.
So only losing another £8 pretty much. They obviously make a middleweight limit, which is pretty feasible and stuff there as well, So obviously I know at the minute it's obviously it's hard to motivate yourself, and you know the fact that a pro debut could obviously be approaching. I know Boxing Ireland have a show in Luxembourg next month. I'm obviously guessing with you being a debutant, it's very tough to get on because you know you're having to rely on a lot of sponsors to do so.
Yeah, so to get on those shows abroad, it does cost a lot of money, and sponsorship are the way forward for that. I do currently have a couple of sponsors on board, but obviously the amount of money they needed is quite substantial.
Mm.
And if any sponsors did want to come up, were watching this and did want to come on board and help me, it would be a possibility to make the debut in Luxembourg. And if that doesn't happen, we can obviously look at shows in the future and see which one's more suitable.
Yep, and I know obviously for anybody, you know, sometimes people have the stigma they think that every pro boxer is a millionaire. You know, if that was the case, you'd obviously box every week. But you know, for some of these shows in Luxembourg and stuff like that at the moment, you having to pay your opponent and everything else because it's a home fight or away from home. So you know, there's a lot of money to obviously put on, and probably unfair for you sometimes at the start to having to rely on a sponsor so much to do that for you.
Yeah, well, like you say, you have to pay the opponent. Like we are going over there as the home fighter, so we're paying all our way. We're paying our accommodation, coach accommodation, and then paying the opponent. And because we can't sell tickets, there's no revenue for us. And so we do rely on sponsors heavily for shows like that.
And I guess obviously sometimes you sort of look at it as a pro boxer. You don't want to be sort of, you know, I've known the boxers and stuff in the past. It's actually had to pay money themselves to fight and stuff as well. So, you know, there's probably no real motivation as such there to know I'm having to actually put out my own money to sort of fight here, you know. But it shows a different aspect of pro boxing that it's not all about, you know, bringing in 10 or 20 grand every time you fight. You know, sometimes you may have to make that sacrifice to put a few pound of your own money into it, you know, as well.
Yeah, like you say, people only really see the glamour side of boxing. They don't really understand the starting off side where you are struggling. You're trying to get the money together to pay an opponent, and you're not making 10, 20,000 just off your first fight. You'd be like some people are very lucky to actually even make any money off their first fight. A lot of people do end up costing the money for maybe 3 or 4 fights at least.
Be nice to make 10 or 20 grand a fight, wouldn't
Wouldn't be bad to start off with.
it? I'm sure you have a lot more people turning pro if they knew in the first couple of fights they're going to make 10 or 20 grand.
Yeah, exactly. The only people that are making big money off turning pro is obviously your Olympians and your guys who have been to the elite level for a long time in the amateur sport.
Mm.
They know they're going to kick on quickly, so they get paid. They do get paid heavily, but for the likes of myself, and any normal professional boxer who just turned, they don't get that sort of money.
Yeah, definitely very nice. So obviously looking within the Boxing Ireland stable, we've sort of touched there on Owen O'Neill, but do you look to any of the others obviously within the Boxing Ireland stable as inspiration of sort of where they've come from and sort of a model you'd like to copy?
Well, I've been watching a couple of lads, and Dominic Donegan, he won the Ulster Seniors himself,
Hmm.
and then he went on pro from there. So he's sort of a good model to follow as well. He won the same title that I have, and now he's 4-0 as well.
Hmm.
So between him and Owen and Dale, it is like, like a good template to follow.
And obviously Dominic got the fight in Spain and stuff there as well. You know, prior to the pandemic, he was getting the fight in Sergio Martinez's shows and sort of they were liking what they were seeing and wanting them back out there. So it's, I guess sometimes you know you're going to be in the shop window for people to see and potentially obviously getting offered to fight in other shows.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what it's all about. Is if you get on a show and you impress, you're going to get the invite rights to go to other people's shows. They're going to want you on and show off some style. If you're getting knockouts, people want to watch knockouts, and that's exactly what will get you on the shows.
So sort of for anybody who's sort of watching and stuff as well that may not know of you, not know a lot about you in terms of you as a boxer, explain sort of what sort of boxer you are. You know, obviously your fighting style and things like that, so that you know, I guess probably people can know what to look out for. Are you sort of big punching, middleweight, or
Yeah, well, I would class myself as a big puncher, and have been, all through the amateur days. Normally, when I catch someone, I hurt them. And I have done my whole career from a young age the whole way up. Every time I've had someone, they either go back or they don't want to come out. So I have got a lot of stoppages on the record. And also senior final, I put my opponent down in first 30 seconds. So I have got the power there to end fights.
And that's obviously you need. Sometimes you need to be able to earn a reputation quickly, and obviously keep people interested and entertained as well. So obviously with not being able to box, like when was it? Was it 2019 you last boxed amateur then, was it?
Yeah.
2019. So you probably nearly feel like a bit of a veteran from the sport now, nearly 2 years out of the ring. What have you made of boxing during the pandemic, and who sort of impressed you the most?
Just being based on the professionals that are out there. I've actually been watching James Hansen a lot. Hard in the man's hands. Just you wouldn't think he's a lightweight just the way he hits. And then obviously I keep watching the likes of Conor Quinn. He's had two pro fights and it's just spectacular. He's great to watch. So they're sort of people I look up to, especially because I've sparred Conor when he was still amateur. So I'd always like to watch him and see where he's going.
Funny, I remember Owen saying to me last week, he obviously sparred, he done a few rounds with Conor, and he couldn't believe obviously all the size and the strength he had.
Yeah, people don't understand when you look at Conor Quinn, you think, yeah, he's skinny, but people don't understand how hard he actually hits. I've sparred him a lot, and there was the first couple of times sparring him, I was like, he's lighter and not throw as hard at him, and then I realized it doesn't matter how hard you throw at him because you have to hit him first.
Yeah.
And that's what actually one of the harder things to do is passing him. He can stand in front of you and you still can't hit him.
And obviously the lower weight class and stuff as well, he's got probably a bit more speed than you have as well, or probably harder to get that angle to hit him.
Yeah, and he's got that experience where he's been on the Ireland team, he's been to the World Championships, European Championships. He fought against the likes of Brent Irvine, who's three-time Olympian. He'll be a three-time Olympian once they eventually go ahead. So he is at a very high level.
And it's obviously not just yourself and Conor in Peter's gym. You've obviously Rudy Farrell, Michael Core in the gym as well. So the 40s are sort of around the sort of same age bracket. And I know Conor's had 2 fights himself so far, but it'd be good to sort of use each other to bounce off.
Yeah, well, it's good. It's good for us to measure what level they're at, and we can all work with each other and learn of each other. And obviously, I've sparred all the lads now, just like sparring, and obviously I'm heavier than them. But all of them seem to be coming on really well, and getting fitter, faster, stronger, and everyone's just waiting on their debut. Like Michael, he signed the same day, signed his contract the same day I did. So we're hopefully we'll get to make our debut on the same day as well, just to be good as a part of the team.
I definitely will. I guess obviously looking through like some of the pictures and stuff you have on social media, did you do a bit of like what do you call it, like a fitness model things, or obviously because I've seen at times you were very very ripped, so to speak.
Yeah.
So what were you doing that for? Were you doing like a competition, or just obviously seeing how far you could push yourself?
Yeah, well, I was supposed to do a competition, and I was in really good shape for it. I was basically a week away from the show, and then that's when I lost my uncle to cancer, and his funeral was on the same day of the show. So I ended up just saying, nah, obviously not going to be doing that, especially with what's happened. So didn't actually end up doing the show, but training's been a big part of my life the whole time. So I just keep myself in shape most of the year round.
I remember seeing a picture, obviously, of your legs, and you were sort of saying you were a paper cut away from doing yourself damage. Sort of, you could see there was no fat there whatsoever.
Yeah, my body fat percentage must have been, it was definitely under 5% at that point. You could see every vein in my leg, and it was just, and it looks good, but it's not maintainable.
No.
You'd be cramping everywhere you go, and it's just harsh on the body.
Can you imagine having to try and box like that? You get hit one punch and sort of, your veins be looking to pop out.
I don't think it would be. I don't even think you'd have the energy to box when you're that low body fat. It's just you'd be tired all the time. Yes, you look great, but you feel awful.
I definitely would. So obviously you're a Tyrone man originally, obviously before you moved to Belfast. It's definitely a county. It's got plenty of pro boxers on it. You've Callum and Tiernan Bradley, Conrad Cummins, Taylor McGoldrick, and yourself to name a few. Obviously the county of Tyrone obviously not only good for other sports, but obviously it's good for boxers as well. So I guess it's carrying on that trend of what Tyrone boxing can do. Callum's come in and blasted it up. Tiernan's obviously started himself. Is his third fight next week. Conrad's sort of been there and done it and coming back again. And Taylor's obviously been in, had a win, had a defeat, had a win, and back again. So it's carrying on that great tradition for Tyrone.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at Tyrone, like, we weren't renowned for boxing for years. Um, but then, like you say, if you look at the Bradleys, Callum and Tiernan, I used to play Gaelic football with Tiernan. That's how close we all live together. Or they're about a 5 minute drive away from where I actually live.
Mm-hmm.
So in Omagh it is pretty close. And then, as you say, professional boxing, there was Dee Taggart used to box. He was professional from Omagh. And then we had Willie Mitchell, who I actually used to train with for years. And then I trained with him over the summer before I won the Ulster. So Willie's actually been a big part in helping me with this as well. To give me advice as he's been there, he's done that. So he's been a big help with it. And I'd say in the future you're probably going to see the likes of Jude Gallagher, who's from Newton Stewart's just down the road as well. Also thrown. So you'll see more people coming through now. And I think now the more people from Omagh that have started turning over pro, we might start to see other people going, I may as well give it a go as well.
Yep, obviously rather than sometimes where people go down the Gaelic and everything else route, they might see the more a career in boxing rather than a sport that obviously it's probably not regarded sometimes has been a big one for the county.
Yeah, Gaelic's obviously the biggest sport in Tyrone. But I've noticed a lot of the boxing clubs in Tyrone have actually closed down. So I'm hoping that changes and kids start to come up and actually do see themselves as a career in boxing, because it's a sport that they can get themselves known in and they can do well in.
And I guess it's probably up to you as the boxers to sort of showcase more of obviously what you can do in your career to obviously then pretty much be idols for the rest of them, sort of and saying I want to be a pro boxer like Dylan, or I want to be a pro boxer like Callum or Tiernan or Conrad or Taylor. So it's sort of making sure you do everything right so that you can sort of be a trendsetter for the rest.
Yeah, well, the likes of us in Tyrone now, we're going to be role models for all those kids who are still boxing. They're going to be looking at us being like, yeah, he's doing really well, or he's a nice person, or he's someone that I would like to emulate. Which it means that we have to be top of our game all the time to make sure that we can set that example and show them this is possible.
And obviously from being Tyrone as well, I'm obviously guessing you probably plenty of support.
Yeah, well, I've got loads of support through the gym that sponsor me, reps. Owner used to actually own a boxing club, that I used to box out of as a youth. And then, as you've seen, but Willie Mitchell, all the support he had, his group was sort of a similar group to mine, and we grew up boxing together, and that's just the sort of support that we're all looking at. You look at Callum's fights in Belfast, he had 2 or 3 busloads coming up and following him. So with it being small town, everyone get behind us and follow us up to our fights.
Definitely will be. And I say, rather than obviously, looking at other sports, they've obviously got another Tyrone man to follow and keeping their tradition going. So obviously with the pandemic and everything else at the minute, it's sort of hard for you to know when you're going to make your debut and things like that. But what sort of goals, if you set yourself any initial goals within the sport and on how active you'd like to be and what sort of titles you'd like to win?
Yeah, well, I'd like to be as active as I can. Obviously, the pandemic's slowing everything way down. In terms of titles, I'd like to win. Everyone's goal is to win a world title, no matter or what or where they come from. That's what they want. And it's a long path, so hopefully, maybe within a year or two, hopefully get a shot at the Celtic title and work our way up the road to Celtic title, Irish title, and go from there. See where we end up.
Yep.
But I'm definitely going to be pushing myself to the limit to get the furthest I can.
It definitely, as I say, if you don't sort of reach for the top, sometimes you're never going to sort of have a goal there. So it's always good to go. I'd like to have aspirations to be a world champion, and it's only you yourself who can really dictate sometimes as if you can get there or not.
Yeah, well, some people will say I would like to do this, but I don't want to put the work in, so they end up never going anywhere. They just don't want to do it. I want to get there, and I work hard every single day, and I push myself out every day. And like I come back to the house after a run, and I can barely move for the rest of the day because I've busted myself.
Mm. Yeah, so you're given 100% of the ring you do, so that whenever you do get your opportunities, you can make the most of them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the only way to be successful in the sport.
It definitely is. And I think I've run out of questions here, or have I? Let me see. So obviously, I don't think I touched on this, but who would your icons have sort of been coming up through boxing at the start, and who would you sort of look to as inspiration now in the boxing game? Who would if you obviously have aspirations of being a middleweight, I'm guessing obviously Canelo and Golovkin would sort of be your ones you would look to now.
Yeah, so they're the big punchers, the heavy hitters, and they're the ones that you would like to be able to emulate in the sport. Obviously, Canelo's came up and he came up from welterweight. He's won unified the welterweight division, moved up unified middleweight, and then he's actually beat Callum Smith at super middle, and he's looking to unify that division. So Canelo would be someone that everyone would want to emulate in the sport. Um, in terms of when I was growing up, though, I love watching Ricky Hatton. It was the body shots that he used to throw were just they were sickening. You could almost feel them through the TV yourself once he landed one. So that would have been the one I would have watched.
I always used to remember Ricky Hatton. You sort of maybe just to think of him like a Jack Russell. The more you probably annoyed him sometimes, the more he got angrier and just started whipping the body shots in. And probably it's the one thing people always remember Ricky Hatton was he just was a warrior. He just gave his all in the ring, and that's I guess what you want sometimes. Just give it your all and see where you can go.
Yeah, for me, I'd rather go out in my shield if I have to go down fighting. It will be a fight. I guess to be able to beat me, the person's got to be willing and to put me down for good. Because I'm not going to go back. I'm not going to give up. And that's just the way it's been throughout my life. I don't give up. I do keep going.
Yeah, but definitely say I'll put you in good stead for obviously turning pro. But look, obviously, we want to obviously thank you, Dylan, for your interview today. And we obviously wish you obviously all the best. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you're going to have some fight news soon.
Thanks very much. I hope so myself.